Call to order the June 2025 meeting of the Mission Fulfillment Committee of the University of Minnesota Board of Regents. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to those who are joining us via the live stream video and those attending in our boardroom here on the Twin Cities campus and those via Zoom. Let me also welcome our student representative for today, Pete Smith from the Twin Cities campus, who is joining us virtually. And now as we begin the program, I would like to first turn the microphone over to President Cunningham, who has a few words to say to us at this time.
Thank you, Chair Johnson, and you'll forgive me for interrupting our regular programming here, but I wanted to update the board and the public on an important series of events. Very early this morning, the homes of several of our regents were vandalized with the clear intent to threaten and intimidate regents as they do their important work to serve the university and all of Minnesota. While we do not yet know who these individuals are who committed these illegal and frightening acts, the university unequivocally condemns this and all vandalism, threatening behavior, and acts of violence. These individuals who committed criminal acts by violating the security and peace of mind with attacks in the middle of the night disagreed with the already approved sale of the university property of university property to a private Minnesota company. Those who disagree with the university have many lawful avenues by which to express their views. The behavior exhibited not only undermines the principles of public discourse and respect for others, but also jeopardizes the safety and well-being of our community. The perpetrators of this vandalism directly threaten the safety of individual regents and erode the security of all. As a university, we are fully cooperating with law enforcement as they investigate these alarming crimes. To the regents, I offer and will continue to offer my and our university entire team full support as you and your families manage this very upsetting turn of events. Thank you.
Thank you, President Cunningham. Our first item this afternoon is to continue our discussions on enrollment strategies for each campus. We have two strategic enrollment updates planned for today. The first presentation will focus on Crookston campus. To present this item, we welcome Chancellor Mary Holzklaus and Sue Erickson, Director of Institutional Effectiveness. Chancellor Holzklaus, would you like to begin, please?
Chair Rick Johnson and members of the Mission Fulfillment Committee, thank you for the opportunity to be with you today and share some of the highlights of both our current state of enrollment on the campus and our future plans. As you indicated, with me today is Sue Erickson. She guides both our strategy and oversight for our enrollment management group. The goals of our presentation, as you see, are to provide you that background and then also give you kind of an overview of what some of our recruitment strategies are, as well as our retention activities. We'll be covering as quickly as possible all of our, as I said, current status, as well as talking with you about the student experience and some of the challenges that we're facing along that. As you, next slide. As you look, and Sue's going to talk with us about the total enrollment for our campus right now.
Good afternoon. Recent enrollment trends for the University of Minnesota Crookston are trending positively after seeing some dips during the COVID pandemic. As this slide illustrates, both degree-seeking and non-degree-seeking student enrollment has increased coming out of 2011. The bulk of our non-degree seeking students are college and the high school dual credit enrollment at roughly 750, with an additional 80 or so students enrolled in dual credit through the post-secondary enrollment option. The remaining handful of non-degree seeking students that we have are those students taking courses not necessarily towards a particular credential.
As we focus on our degree-seek enrollment, Crookston is also cautiously optimistic that the current enrollment numbers will increase to a trend upward. As shown on this slide, on-campus and online enrollment have increased since the historic lows in 2022. These increases reflect Crookston's data-driven recruitment planning and strategies, along with the allocation of internal funding to bolster recruitment staffing and pool our campus marketing resources to focus on recruitment marketing. Fall 2025 degree-seeking enrollment is projected to be at 1830. There'll be 725 to 730 students in person and 1,085 to about 1,100 online. If we look forward to 2030, we project on-campus enrollment to flatten at roughly 800 to 850 students on campus, given the declining number of Minnesota high school graduates. Updating our academic portfolio and further investment in recruitment marketing may push our campus enrollment beyond this figure. However, this will bring us to a near on-campus housing capacity. Online enrollment is projected to continue steady growth, although the rate that increase may flatten. The larger cohorts entering in 2022 will begin graduating, so steady recruitment will be replacing numbers rather than adding to a growing enrollment. The limited marketing dollars we have invested are driving traffic to our website, specifically our admissions and application landing pages, and through digital ad campaigns, including search-based displays called SBD, targeted display, retargeting of website visitors, and paid social media. A smaller percentage of our marketing dollars were spent on brand awareness tactics, including increased reach in TV and radio ads, those old media that I know, as well as billboards. Website traffic, both users and views, are early indicator of overall enrollment trends. At one time, $100K investment began this fiscal year. This chart indicates year-over-year traffic increase as a correlation to the additional marketing investments. But without recurring budget in this space, we can't compete with the Minnesota State universities, private colleges, and out-of-state schools, which are also significantly ramping up their media spend in the last year or so. To be effective with our marketing efforts and invest efficiently, we segment our ad campaigns for each audience. Here are a few examples of ads that touch our on-campus segment, transfer major specifics such as the horticulture online, and geo-targeted audiences. While a segmentation strategy is more effective than a single campaign, it also requires immense content creation resources, an area we need to invest in and to continue our growth trajectory. The values the students get at the University of Minnesota has not gone unnoticed, and particularly at the University of Minnesota Crookston. In fact, this past year, two separate entities, Smart Asset and Niche, ranked us as the #1 best value college in the state of Minnesota. This doesn't mean we have the lowest tuition rate, but when you look at affordability, scholarship, and grant opportunities, retention rates, graduation rates, student debt, and starting salaries of our graduates, we top the list in value provided, which is what students and parents are looking for. Keeping our rates competitive in each of these areas will be a key to our continued success. Here's an example of one of the ranked #1 best value ads. Please play the video.
You deserve the best. The University of Minnesota Crookston is ranked as the best value college in both Minnesota and North Dakota. Low costs, lots of scholarships, and higher than average starting salaries for our graduates. University of Minnesota Crookston, small campus, big degree. The best of both worlds.
Yeah, yay. Good work.
Our partnership with Guild continues to enhance enrollment. If you recall, Guild is a firm that partners with large Fortune 500 companies to administer employer-paid tuition benefit programs, along with providing success coaching for employees participating in those programs. As part of the partnership, Guild works with employers to identify types of academic programs appropriate to their individual workforce development and training needs, and then Guild then matches those needs to academic programs being delivered by their education partners. We currently have around 150 students enrolled through Guild. Some of the employers that are partnered with our academic programs are shown here on this slide. The greatest number of students continue to come from Target Corporation, followed by Tesla and Tyson Foods. Popular academic programs delivered to Guild students are accounting, communication, and health management. We're renewing a focus on transfer recruitment, and that's been an ongoing process. We're strategically identifying appropriate two-year programs for transfer and building relationships with those institutions. Articulation agreements are being defined when appropriate. If you recall, articulation agreements lay out how particular 2-year curriculum transfer into our 4-year degree program so that students know upfront what remaining coursework will be required. Lastly, getting the right message to the right student is continuously our goal. Students want their particular individual question answered easily. And lastly, I'll mention we're targeting travel to particular events. Just one example is we've expanded our attendance at FFA conventions. Historically, we would hit the Minnesota State FFA convention and maybe the national, but we're finding success in attending the other regional state conventions as well, and that draws students to our agricultural programs. One piece to highlight is our improving retention rate. So shown here is the retention of incoming freshmen for fall to spring and fall to fall cohorts. The low mark recorded in fall of 2019 was the cohort that entered the semester that we eliminated our football program, and so we expected that one to drop off quite low. The steady increase since then, I attribute it primarily to the outcomes of our campus participation in the Higher Learning Commission's Persistence and Completion Academy, which has been renamed to the Student Success Academy. As you may understand, the Academy work resulted in 2 initiatives being implemented, an Admit for Success approach and a first-year experience course being developed. A significant data dive defines student high school performance indicators leading to high potential to graduate from our college. The data led to updated admission criteria, including a move to being test blind, focusing rather on high school grade point average, the evaluation of high school course rigor, and student engagement and leadership during their high school experience. The first-year experience course focuses on acclimating incoming freshmen to college life, introducing campus learning resources, understanding identity and developing belonging, and building healthy wellness habits. These programs really hit stride post-COVID, and we're excited to see continued results. The course helps students find their home and often brings students to engage with like-minded fellow students. This has enhanced engagement both academic and co-curricular activities and student organizations. As the quotes indicate, our hands-on learning approach continues to engage students at a high level. We've also implemented both an academic care team and a wellness care team. These groups of faculty and staff identify students who appear to be struggling, attempt outreach, and subsequently work to provide support and resources to hopefully enable the student to overcome the challenges they're experiencing. Data is currently being collected to better understand how effective these care team strategies are in aiding student persistence. Like our online programs are key to our enrollment. Different from some online programs, our online curriculum is built from the in-person experience. But as the quote on this slide references, our faculty are doing much more than taking in-person coursework and putting it online. Content is altered such that asynchronous delivery is enabled, yet student learning outcomes achieved mirror those in in-person courses. Our faculty have learned how to provide a hands-on learning experience in the online environment. This chart shows where students admitted to Crookston but enrolling elsewhere end up attending. A large number are opting to attend the Twin Cities campus, and the Duluth campus is also on the list. We see regional competition from the University of North Dakota State, Concordia, and Bemidji State. And lastly, the list shows significant programmatic competition in the agricultural space with the Twin Cities campus, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, University of Wisconsin River Falls, competing in that arena, and Bemidji State offering natural resources programming.
I know we've all heard about the coming enrollment cliff. This graph demonstrates that a significant decline in high school graduates has already hit our backyard. The 14% decline from 2011 to 2023 represents 150 fewer students each year in the Northwest region. Our reversal in the incoming cohorts actually reflects our efforts to establish new markets as long as we have funding available for marketing and looking further away and really increasing our exposure into North Dakota. Student athletes also play a significant role in total enrollment and campus life. In fact, student athletes make up almost 40% of our on-campus population. We're already a small institution in NCAA Division II landscape. So aging and deteriorating facilities make recruitment of athletes more difficult for us. As we look at other challenges, we're also looking at the first generational attitudes around value. As we are all aware, the attitudes around value and investment in higher education were historically positive and used extensively by all of us in marketing higher education. But attitudes have shifted, and particularly as students look at their return on investment. There's a cultural reluctance to pursue baccalaureate education, particularly in our rural demographics and regions. Prospective students and families tend to be very price sensitive. That's why we're focusing, and we're so happy that we are noted as the best value in Minnesota by several groups. Others have also noted some of our other colleagues in our other campuses in that area. But that's really why we're focusing our marketing efforts on rankings we receive for best value to try to counter the narrative that education and higher education is expensive. Linked to this, our programs in agriculture have historically tied to students who grew up in farming to populate our programs. Fewer students are raised on farms these days. To counter this challenge, we're working with CFANS and Minnesota State to expand the base of students and have students who historically had not thought about careers in food and agriculture to consider those. We're marketing extensively into some of the metro areas, exposing students to careers that maybe they hadn't even thought of in, for instance, food science or microbiology and other areas that historically students do not associate with the food and agricultural industry. And then, because we are a relatively new four-year degree granting institution, we're only 31 years that we've been granting these four-year degrees, our alumni in this area are still relatively young in their careers and have not reached their full earning potential. So we have a smaller alumni base for philanthropic giving. And most of our major philanthropic gifts have so far come from individuals who graduated from Crookston when it was still a high school. Mm-hmm. So we anticipate going forward that philanthropic base will continue to grow. And then, as we already spoke a little bit about our recruitment marketing budget, wherever possible, we've taken funds from the last several years to allocate to recruitment marketing. We have requested in our budget compact and did receive funds in 2025. Since this allocation, as I said, we've made significant increases both in applications and enrollments. So that's just a quick overview of what's going on in enrollment management and recruitment at the University of Minnesota Crookston. So we have some thoughts for you. I'm sure you may have some questions for us, but how do we take these solutions that we presented and these challenges, and what are opportunities, as you heard her speak, that perhaps you see the maybe growing markets and niche markets which we should be looking at? So those are the questions for you, and I'm sure you may have questions for us.
Thank you very much for presentation. Colleagues, are there any questions or discussion regarding it? Regent Tad Johnson.
Thank you, Chair Johnson, and thank you for your presentation. I've been to Crookston several times over the last couple of years, so really appreciate everything you do. I'm just curious, with your online majors, what are the more popular ones?
Thank you, Chair Johnson and Regent Johnson. For our online majors, the most popular discipline is the business discipline, and a major which is growing in extreme popularity is our accounting. And we're actually, due to some special assistance that we've received from the Provost's office and from the President's office, we're doing an accelerated accounting, which we would be starting in fall. And our numbers keep growing daily, which is good. Again, we have met a market demand and a market niche with that. But all the business majors, marketing, management, finance, accounting, tend to be the most popular of our online students.
Thank you.
President Cunningham.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank both of you. It's a very exciting work you've done. And call out specifically, how proud I am of the work and the number one value recommendation that's been put out there, which is just fabulous. I think the retention rates are tremendous, I think, and are often overlooked. And it's one thing to talk about enrollments, but unless we keep the students and really support them, and I know there's been a lot of work there, and that work really shows, and it comes through. So anyway, I'm grateful for the work you've done, and we'll obviously continue to do work. We have a system-wide enrollment strategy plan. I'll remind folks that kicked off across each of the campuses this past week. And with that, in addition to the excellent projections provided here, we'll be gathering more information and more strategies on how we think about enrollment, both here and then as a system to support enrollment goals and what those goals may be with even broader data than you could do before. So we're looking forward to that. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Regent Johnson and President Cunningham. And I would say much of the data-driven is the work that Sue and the other people, Link and others, have done to provide that. And so when we have the data, we can make better and more informed decisions. Thank you, Sue.
Thanks. Regent Hipsch.
Thank you, Chair Johnson. I love your strategy. I love what you guys are doing. I think it's really going to work for you, especially in the FFA and different things. I think 4-H is another area that's really fast growing in our region that we can't ignore. We got a lot of boys and girls clubs and different people that are embedding 4-H right into the boys and girls clubs, and I think it's going to yield a lot of students, and they're really good leaders too in the schools and whatever else. Just that hand-to-hand combat, that's, in a small town, that's what you have to do. It's hard marketing. It's not like, the Twin Cities marketing, you can put up a billboard and 1 million people see it. It's going to take 2 years for 100,000 people to see it up there. So that's just my,
Thank you, Chair Johnson and Regent Hipsch. And I think that we cannot underestimate the importance of all of the pathway programs that we're doing,
Yes.
starting at those, third grade, regardless of what a student chooses, but to expose them with the pathway, the STEM programs, and bringing students into the fold and get them to start thinking at a young age that they can be a successful college student.
Thank you. Regent Verhalen.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation, Chancellor Holtz-Claus. In looking at the total enrollment chart, Crookston has benefited by about 1/3 of non-degree seeking students, especially over recent years. With those students, are you seeing any trends in their interests, what non-degree seeking students are gravitating toward? Are these continuing education? Are these students who've not experienced higher education before? What, if anything, are you learning from those who are taking advantage of that experience?
Look at each other. Go ahead.
Chair Johnson, Regent Verhalen, I'll answer this one.
Okay.
Most of our non-degree are high school students taking dual credit, particularly the College in the Schools program. We partner with primarily rural school districts in that space. And even with our PSEO, a lot of those students are coming from, we have, of our PSEO students, a handful come to campus, and those are from the Crookston High School, and then a handful, or just onesies, twosies from some of the other regional high schools. But we find a lot more students are taking PSEO in our online format. I know Provost Croson's son has opted for that. My own son is going to be a junior, and his only real option for taking a college course in his junior year is through the online PSEO, because moving or coming to campus isn't really an option during the school day for one single course. We have done studies in the past with kind of where those students end up going after high school. Not enough of them choose us.
But they do
Some of them
choose the
do.
Twin Cities.
A lot of them, actually, a lot of our PSEO students do end up choosing the Twin Cities campus.
So Regent Johnson and Regent Verhalen, they also tend to be, as Sue indicated, very high-achieving students, and so they're able to take those PSEO in college and the high school and be successful. And then oftentimes, we're able to augment, particularly in our college and the high school curriculums, that some of these small school districts would not be able to offer. And so we're, I was going to say, it is also a great pathway program. It's just that they're not matriculating as much to Crookston as they probably are to other places, but they are going forward, and that's ultimately what we want.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you say a word, not sure I have this right, like Vet Fast program, or your tracking into veterinary medicine, which we know is a really important need for our state and the region. Can you say a little bit about that and how that's working out?
So, Regent or Chair Johnson. So the Vet Fast program, as we've spoke about a lot here because of its success, that students, if they can be accepted into veterinary school at the same time that they begin their undergraduate degree in animal science, as long as they meet the criteria and also continue to meet the scholastic requirements. So this year, I believe we had 4 or 5 students who were part of the Vet Fast program. Crookston, as well as Morris, I know definitely have quite a few students who participate in that. They have to be practicing, agree to practice as a large animal veterinarian at Pond.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, are there any other questions? Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate it very much. Okay. Next, we turn to our second strategic enrollment update, which will focus on the Rochester campus. To provide the update are Chancellor Lori Carroll and Terry Whittam, Associate Vice Chancellor for Enrollment Management. Chancellor Carroll, would you like to start us off?
Chair Johnson, Regents, thank you so much for your interest in the enrollment of the university's Startup Health Sciences campus in Rochester. As we approach our 17th fall, the news is good. I'm so pleased to have my colleague Terry Whittam here with me today. Terry serves the UMR campus and the university as the Associate Vice Chancellor for Enrollment Management in Rochester. And today we'll provide an update on UMR's enrollment, though I've already shared the good news headline, and we'll summarize the activities that are moving us in the direction of our bolder enrollment target. Carnegie has recently named UMR an opportunity university, given the earnings and diversity of our graduates, and our sister campus in Duluth has also received this designation. As we continue to grow our enrollment in UMR, we do so with integrity, offering high value, a research-informed education, and the opportunity to not only make a difference in the world, but also to make a living. A quick refresh, as you think about our enrollment, I'd like you to keep in mind that we specialize in 2 areas. First, in educating graduates headed to health careers across Minnesota, and also we specialize in research on student learning and development, which leads to educational innovation based on evidence and, most importantly, increased student success. Our startup strategy, which was approved by your predecessors, is to grow this new campus in 3 phases, each requiring investment to expand our place, people, and programs. Those 3 phases have enrollment targets, 1,000, 1,500, and 2,500, and I wonder if by now you can say with me the names of those phases, or just whisper them to yourselves: bold, bolder, and boldest. Vice Chancellor Whittam.
Thank you, Chair Johnson and Regents. As of Confirmation Day, which was May 1st of this year, UMR had 421 paid confirmed new students. Based on a larger than average summer melt, we project to enroll at least 375 new students in the fall of 2025. By comparison, we enrolled 213 new students in the fall of '24. This will represent a 76% increase in students, 162 new students overall, and the largest new student class in UMR's history by far. The fall success is the result of our investment over the past 2 years in personnel, recruitment, technology, and admissions. As a result, applications have increased year over year by 27%, offers of admission by 42%, and paid confirmations by 119%. Again, I want to emphasize, as of May 1st, we had 421 paid confirmations. Now, unfortunately, all the students that we admit don't attend UMR. We're working on that. The top 3 institutions we lost admitted students in 2024 included the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and Wisconsin is our second feeder state, the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, and the University of St. Thomas.
At UMR, fit matters. You know, we specialize in developing human potential for health careers with strong and personalized student support and a multitude of work-based learning options with our industry partner. As we look at this list, you can see an interesting mix of much larger schools, private schools, and regional Minnesota and Wisconsin state schools. So you think about that high schooler at the decision moment. And typically, our prospective students have been admitted to more than one campus. They have several options, and financial aid becomes a critical part of their decision. In addition, all of these schools recruit pre-med students. As we move forward, we need to do a better job demonstrating and marketing UMR's exceptional opportunities and support for pre-med students.
While we introduced a number of new strategic recruitment initiatives, a few of the most productive included doubling our inquiry pool. The inquiry pool are those students who have expressed interest in UMR, to 69,000 for 2025 over an inquiry pool of 35,000 in 2024. We expanded our high school and college fair reach with a program we called Reintroducing UMR to Minnesota, which resulted in a 117% increase in new student engagements. And most of all, we improved and expanded our campus visit opportunities. The data shows that if a student visits your campus, you are much more likely to enroll that student. And we increase student visitations by 52%. The most impactful initiative that we put in that I have to mention is the enrollment management team that's been assembled at the University of Minnesota, Rochester. We spent a great deal of time, over a year, recruiting that team, and we work on a philosophy that classes are built one student at a time, and we are highly personalized in our recruitment, and it's because of this team that we have the success we have. The other most important initiative, and I'm going to embarrass my boss now, is that Chancellor Carroll had the vision and the courage to do almost anything I said I wanted to do. Not everything, but almost.
Thank you. It has been a fabulous team, and we are so pleased with their commitment and work. And that personalized approach to recruitment extends what we do when the student is there. A highly relational approach to education and student development. Along with that is this communication with parents. It's become ever more important, and we now include a parent support experience, also evidence-based, in a variety of events, from scholarship competitions to orientation. Last summer, we also launched, with a wonderful marketing team that works with admissions, a major refresh of how we describe UMR's academic offerings, emphasizing health career pathways, including pre-med, which is the identified interest of a majority of our applicants. You can see the new materials in the docket, including a career-focused list of Get Forward Faster options. That's UMR's accelerated and early assurance programs, including College in 3. Many of these options have been created with university system partners. Now, prior to this year, we had surprisingly few students from Rochester enrolling at UMR. So we invested in a local blitz with bus wraps, which you see here, and digital billboards. And we know that all of our incoming students have had an experience in childhood or adolescence that motivated their passion for a career in health. And many of those applicants have a story that is connected to Mayo Clinic's impact on a family member or themselves. So we added a digital campaign in the Skyways throughout the Mayo enterprise and strengthened our presence on social media.
And if I could interrupt one just second, we have doubled the number of students from our local county this year.
Thank you. So UMR's first to second year retention has increased to 86%. That surpasses the Impact 2025 goal of 85%, and of course, we aspire to continue to increase retention. In general, our evidence-based practices contribute to students' timely completion, and that includes success coaches, Just Ask faculty interaction stations, living learning communities, flipped and active learning, capstones, community engaged learning, paid internships, first-year experience, and more. Of special importance, the phenomenal undergraduate research experiences available to our students. Undergraduate research of this caliber is part of the distinctiveness not only of our campus in Rochester, but also across the University of Minnesota system. It's a differentiator. And I want to remind you that undergraduate research not only builds particular competencies, but it is also itself a high impact practice that affects retention. So at UMR, with these high impact practices and the research we do on student learning and development, students from underrepresented backgrounds complete college at similar rates as their peers.
The number one reason students give us for leaving UMR is financial challenge, which is understandable when you consider that 30% of this year's incoming class have an estimated family contribution of 0 or less, and 40% of the class is Pell eligible. Working to continue to increase our scholarships is a critical retention tactic. Through the current Onward campaign, set to wrap up before fall of '26, we'll have raised nearly $5 million in new scholarships, which is quite a feat when you consider how young we are and how small and young our alumni base is.
So at UMR, you know, we love to share stories of student success. And if you look across these pathways, hone in on the health technology career pathway. And I want to talk about Dawood Al-Dawood. He became aware of UMR when visiting Rochester for medical care. He came from his home country of Kuwait. And that awareness eventually led to enrollment in our undergraduate program and then into one of our Get Forward Faster programs in collaboration with university partners. He's just finished his master's in bioinformatics and computational biology in Rochester, and he's moving on to his PhD program in the fall. He expresses gratitude for the UMR program that made possible his undergraduate research experience in nephrology at Mayo Clinic and set his course for advanced study in bioinformatics. Dawood shares that he learned a great deal and acquired many critical skills crucial in the field of research, especially the wet lab setups. You can read more about his journey and other UMR alumni in the docket materials. And you can be assured that work-based learning in healthcare settings is available to UMR students. So as we work to garner strategic investments so we can expand to accommodate the 1,500 students who are coming soon, we welcome your questions and your ideas.
Thank you very much, Chancellor and Associate Vice Chancellor. Are there any questions from fellow regents? Regent Davenport.
Thank you. Chair Johnson, and of course I love Rochester, having spent some time there myself. So I was interested in what you said about the increase in enrollment from Olmsted County itself, and that there's complementary, competitive higher ed there concentrated in Rochester with RCTC, Winona State, St. Mary's, is it? And yourselves. And so that in itself, standing on its own, is an accomplishment. I'm guessing those students that are in your pool maybe weren't so likely, looking at the chart of where your admits go. But could you talk a little bit about how you work together? Are you still engaging in athletics with the two-year college because you don't have the athletics themselves? Just some of those kind of things which maybe together boost enrollment for everybody. I don't know.
Thank you, Chair Johnson and Regent Davenport. This is my first time meeting you guys. So
You're doing right.
I got the script. First of all of those schools that you mentioned are cross applicants for our students, along with almost all of the schools within the University of Minnesota system. Our biggest cross applicants is with the Twin Cities, which would make sense considering what our majors are. What we found was that up until about a year ago, we really weren't doing anything special in our own backyard. We may be visiting a high school or two, but we weren't doing anything to engage the students or the counselors. And so one of the individuals that we hired is this wonderful woman whose husband is like the head of cardiac surgery at Mayo or something, and has 3 children who are doctors, and just loves to meet with families and students. And we set her loose in the county. And we visited every high school. We brought the Olmsted High School counselors to our campus for a program. We bring bus groups in. We've had a tremendous number of different local groups, as well as groups from the Twin Cities, and even as far as northern Minnesota, we will host down on campus. In some cases, we will pay for their bus transportation to come and visit. So, and then on top of that, it's the marketing that the Chancellor mentioned. But to really tell you what we did was we spent more time in our own backyard, and we spent personal time with those students. You know, if I can give a quick example, for example, when One Stop sends out our students their estimated financial aid, tentative financial aid award in the early spring, we actually follow up with every single student and contact them and their parents to go walk through the award with them, explain if they have any issues. In the same token, about 30% of our students don't file a FAFSA, and so we follow up with those parents as well and explain what the positive effects of that are.
Thanks, Chair Johnson. Regent Davenport, in addition, and I think the second part of your question, the collaboration across higher ed institutions in our region does continue. In fact, in addition to the schools you mentioned, there's also Riverland, and our support of a transfer pathway there has been really fruitful, and just a fabulous example of collaboration and meeting specific kinds of needs for specific students.
Right, and kudos to that parent program.
Yes.
Yeah.
The parent program, and one of the other really effective steps we took in is we work with a company called Campus ESP, which is a parent communication. They do a website, newsletters, and every 2 weeks they send out this formatted newsletter. It includes specific information from UMR, and they work with our marketing department to get that. And then they include general information that anybody whose child is looking at college they should know. So for example, we have a 10-step checklist for students so that we know where they are in the enrollment process. And then they might do an article about the importance of a second campus visit or the importance of making sure that you understand all the elements of your financial aid package. We've had tremendous response from that with the number of parents who actually are registering to receive all of those emails and registering on their website. So much so that the marketing department did away with their separate parent newsletter and now use this campus ESP.
Thank you.
Regent Wheeler?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Johnson. You know, I just think I'm blown away by the growth of this campus and what it will mean to so many. But another thing I'm blown away with is just your innovation in learning and development. And, you know, the Get Forward Faster programs. Well, I was down there when the students were doing presentations about what they had learned about how to learn better. And I'm wondering what implications you see that having for our Maroon, Gold, and Bold strategic plan, and how could we scale this, you know, innovation in learning and design, because we're going to have to think beyond, right, the walls of a 4-year degree, you know, to really excel for the people we serve. So just your thoughts on that.
Chair Johnson, Regent Wheeler, I think you've identified a critical opportunity in this next stage for the entire university as we look at evidence about supporting student success as well as more efficient and creative ways to educate. This is certainly the time, perhaps it's been the time before, but as we make this transition to Maroon, Gold, and Bold embedded in those frameworks and priorities, and we're looking forward to getting to a point of sharing all of that. There is this opportunity for evidence-based educational innovation, and I can certainly see room nationally for a university system of this caliber to lead in that arena. You mentioned Get Forward Faster, and of course that emanated from College in 3 and the prototype that this board supported during the pandemic. And the College in 3 Exchange, which is now a nonprofit, is convening in Rochester Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. There are over 50 campuses nationally. The latest is NYU, who have joined the College in 3 Exchange. You'll see some coverage about this, but this is an approach to designing undergraduate education that uses evidence and reduces cost. But in using evidence-based practice, we hypothesize that more students will complete successfully in these redesigns, and there's a broad-based national assessment project to document that and to keep learning. So we'll want to pay attention to those results.
That's great. Thank you, Chair Johnson. It's just the other comment I have is, boy, I look to see that embedded in our strategic plan, because and I say especially you and some of the other campuses are just leading in that endeavor. So that would be fabulous. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Oh, President Cunningham.
Yeah, I'll just add that, you know, first of all, wonderful job. So nice to see you today here. And I mean, we'll see. I'm sure there's some melt in the summer, but one can't get away from that kind of enrollment trend, even if there's melt in the summer. We know that the state has a tremendous workforce need in health. We know that you're delivering it in a really innovative, you know, way and manner. And I think to your point, Regent Wheeler, you know, as we look ahead to strategic planning, you know, certainly our need to support the state and their workforce development around health is at top of mind around the, you know, around many of the sections in that planning coming forth. And so we know bolder and boldest. Did I get that quite right? Sort of close. So, and certainly, I mean, we have to be able to think about how we're supporting what is in the growth of the campus and the growth of the state's needs directly and very successfully with those increasing retention rates, even early to note. So, yeah.
Great.
Thank you. Chair Johnson and President Cunningham, if I might just say, you know, since confirmation day, and these projections are based on conservative estimates related to summer melt, we're being cautious, but we have been holding retreats of the entire campus community because in both direct interaction with students and the indirects, the staff who are supporting everything else. We will be different in the fall with this large of a first-year class, and I am just amazed at the UMR campus community and the creativity, imagination, excitement, willingness to adapt, going late into the night and sharing spaces and all of that to be able to prepare this larger class for health careers that are so needed in our state. So.
Yeah, thank you very much. As a resident of the community, I can say that the community has embraced UMR and the good work you're doing greatly. And so I'm delighted to hear about the parents and others who are volunteering and stepping up to work with you on all of those things. And hopefully someday we can make a field trip down there and see a little.
Chair Johnson, that would be wonderful. I would say also, as we look towards and we look those enrollment growths, and I know you touched on this, but if those happen in that successful way, despite all the summer mad planning that you're doing, we don't have the current space and building to do that, which is a great new problem to have. But that will require us coming back to the board and talking about different investments and different components. And as we're thinking about planning, that is something that would need to be addressed. And
That would be really helpful. Regent Farnsworth and I were down earlier, kind of a meet and greet to students there, and got the tour. And yeah, it's growing, and the need is great for facilities.
plan towards the future.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. The next item of business is to act on the proposed amendments to Board of Regents policy, academic misconduct. These amendments were reviewed at the May meeting, and changes have been made to reflect feedback provided by the committee. Associate Vice President Joanne Billings, Kaylee Klinicka, Senior Associate General Counsel, and Danielle Rintala, Director of Research Integration or Integrity and Compliance, will walk us through these changes. Associate Vice President Billings, would you like to start, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair Johnson and Regents and President Cunningham and Provost Crossan. We thank you for allowing us to present a follow-up to the research, currently academic misconduct policy revisions. So today we will briefly describe the system-wide research compliance administration and their roles, discuss some additional revisions that were made since the research misconduct policy was reviewed after the May 2025 meeting, and then we would like the board to consider approval of these changes to the policy. So the Research and Innovation Office is home to key administrative units that carry out many of the components of research compliance. Each of these programs have reporting requirements to federal agencies and funders when there are findings of concern. These include the Human Research Protection Program, which provides oversight for social behavioral and biomedical research involving human participants, the Institutional Review Board, which is responsible for study review and approval. They also have a quality assurance arm, provide education, but they also can be involved in require corrective action plans, suspend studies, and take other actions when there are concerns related to this research. There's the Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee, which also is involved in a protocol review and approval. They do inspections of our facilities. They are involved in training and education of our staff. They also can require corrective action plans, suspend investigators, or suspend protocols, and be involved in actions when there are findings of concern. There's the Office of Biotechnology and Activities Oversight, which includes the institutional biosafety committees. They provide oversight to stem cell research and dual-use research. There's the Research Integrity and Compliance group or person who oversees export controls and research security, the Certified Approver Program, responsible of conduct of research education, and this is where research misconduct that we are talking about today is managed. And then, as you know, there's the Sponsor Projects Administration and the Associate Vice President for Research Administration, which is involved in grants administration, contracts, effort reporting, and oversight of our financial grant management. These compliance groups work hand in hand with other partners across the system, such as the health, safety, and risk management groups, which involve environmental health and safety, biosafety, occupational health, controlled substances, radiation safety, just to name a couple of their responsibilities. We also work and partner closely with the Institutional Compliance and the Conflict of Interest Program, who are also responsible for our reporting system and U-reports. The Office of General Counsel partners with us and these different units as well, and help with the handling of cases of research misconduct, conflict of interest, animal welfare, human participant research, and others. And then the Office of Internal Audit partners with us, and they work with us to identify areas that we feel have needs for an internal audit process, and they help us and help in coordinating reviews when there are compliance issues that arise. And then HIPCO, which conducts our ancillary reviews for research approved by the IRB to ensure that we are compliant with HIPAA and review research issues relating to PHI.
So one of the revisions to the Regents' research misconduct policy is the definition of research misconduct itself. This was discussed at length at the May meeting. As noted, the proposed revisions to the definition of research misconduct now mirror the federal regulatory definition of research misconduct, which is really a term of art in our field. It is limited to 3 types of conduct: fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism, with exclusions for honest error or mistakes and differences of scientific opinion. Virtually all universities and other institutions that receive federal funding for research have a policy that defines research misconduct in this way: fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism. That said, there are certainly other types of problematic behavior that can occur in the research setting that don't necessarily fall within the definition of fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism. AVP Billings just described a comprehensive research compliance program designed to capture the broad scope of those non-compliance or behavioral issues. And research misconduct is really a slice of that program. We have other processes that handle hostile workplace concerns, breaches of privacy, biohazard concerns that AVP Billings just discussed. Those are handled in processes that have been developed and tailored to those contexts and the laws that apply to those issues. So I want to talk specifically about the phrases that are in the current policy in the definition of research misconduct that we're proposing be eliminated to more closely mirror the federal regulatory definition to make sure we've addressed any perceived gaps. So one phrase that has been proposed to be removed is destruction of data for fraudulent purposes. I think in most contexts, this would likely fall under our definition of falsification, which includes omitting data that research is not accurately reported in the research record. So if that's the type of fraudulent purpose this is, we would be handling that as falsification. If it's some other type of fraudulent purpose, though, we have the code of conduct. If it is a type of fraudulent purpose and the destruction of data, like sort of for example, sabotage. You're destroying somebody else's data, but not necessarily to commit fraud. That could be handled as a potential IRB issue if we're talking about human participant research, or with the IACUC if there's animal research. There's a lot of different avenues depending on the facts of the case. Another phrase that we're proposing to eliminate and handle elsewhere is abuse of confidentiality. This term is quite vague. It really depends on what type of confidential information is being disclosed. If it's something that involves health information, we would loop in HIPCO that has processes to evaluate that. If it involves human health information, we would be looping in the Institutional Review Board. And generally, we have the code of conduct to sort of capture other types of confidentiality breaches. It could also be a breach of Data Practices Act. I mean, there's a lot of different avenues. And then finally, the sort of broad catch-all phrase of fraudulent actions. Again, if it's a fraudulent action that impacts the research record, we would treat that as research misconduct. That would likely fall under the definition of falsification or fabrication. But if it doesn't, it would still be reviewed by the IRB, the IACUC, depending on the nature of the research. If it was grant or financial fraud, it would likely loop in the sponsored projects administration, the controller's office, Office of Internal Audit. So it really depends on the facts of the case.
So we also listened to what you said about your concerns regarding the definition for a finding of research misconduct, which was brought up. And so as part of that, we added in additional definitions that clarify what a finding of research misconduct constitutes, and that includes the definition intentionally, which means to act with the aim. Knowingly means to act with the awareness of the act. Recklessly means to propose, perform, or review research or report research results with indifference to a known risk of fabrication, falsification, or plagiarism. And preponderance of the evidence means that the proof by evidence that compared with evidence opposing it leads to the conclusion that the fact at issue, so the allegation at issue, is more likely true than not. Those are the definitions that mirror the ORI, the Office of Research Integrity's federal regulatory policy. Slide. And that leads into why we put those there, and that is because subdivision 4 that was added in now outlines that requirement for the finding of research misconduct, which includes that there is a significant departure from accepted practices of the relevant research community, that the misconduct be committed intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly, and the allegation is proven by a preponderance of the evidence. The additional change that we also added in for subdivision 6 outlines detrimental research practices. These are the research practices that threaten the real or perceived integrity of the research or the researchers, but fall outside of the definition of research misconduct. For example, this may include compliance, non-compliance with sponsored projects or misuse of research funds, failure to properly acquire, maintain, share, and store data, toxic workplace behavior such as berating, cursing, sabotaging, or bullying, and the neglectful or exploitative supervision in research. And I'll turn it back to you.
So we really hope that we've captured the key elements and the changes that we made to the policy in the added subsections. And so we are asking if these inclusions of providing the draft of the administrative policy procedures address any additional questions you may have since the May meeting.
Okay, thank you. Before we turn to any questions or discussion, is there a motion to adopt on behalf of the board the proposed amendments to the Board of Regents policy academic misconduct?
Move to adopt.
Any second? Second. Okay, thank you. Now let's turn to discussion. Are there any questions or comments from committee members? Regent Mayron.
Yes, thank you, Regent Johnson. Thank you for the work that you did since the May meeting and taking into some of the comments that I provided and others as well. I really appreciate that. Can you explain how it looks like changes were also made to the administrative policy, is that correct? So can you explain how the two interface together, the Regents policy, but then the administrative policy as well? And I'm looking at it and some things are in bold and some are not, and I don't know if that's showing edits, but anyway, how the two are tied together.
Yeah.
Thanks for that question, Regent Mayron. So the Board of Regents policy is really kind of like the overarching, very high level policy that is dictating kind of over all 5 campuses. This is what we expect. This is what from our research community. And this is just the baseline requirement for saying you can and can't do these things. Now, the administrative policy is more like the operational part. So that's the part that our research community then goes to look at of, how are we going to, what happens if I submit an allegation of research misconduct, and it will guide them through that process. What does this definition mean when we're talking about a certain component of research misconduct, and the definition is included there. Our administrative policy, much like the Board of Regents policy, was not revised for quite some time, and we did a very comprehensive review of it and edited the materials in it to reflect the federal policy, but also to reflect substantive changes that have happened in the world of research integrity over about the last decade to put us at par with our other Big Ten colleagues. And so I am part of a working group with COGR and ARIO. So COGR, you all know what that is, but ARIO is the lesser known of the Association of Research Integrity Officers. We are working together to make sure that our policies align with each other well and that it aligns with what the government is expecting of us at this point in time. And that administrative policy is really going to be what carries forward all the fine details of the Board of Regents policy.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't have any follow-up.
Regent Kenyanya.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I spoke a lot last time, so I won't. I won't yeah, we discussed this one, so I'll keep it brief. Just thanks for the work on it and the revisions, particularly as I was kind of listening to this conversation and thinking of the revisions. It reminded me of a conversation I had last week. The provost invited me to meet with some new senior leaders, and one of the things we were talking about is the board dynamic of having a board full of non-academics, and we're talking about how it can be a bug, but it's really more of a feature. Actually, and I was thinking about it, and it's not that there's really anything wrong with the first policy, but then you present it to this group of non-academics, and they're like, "This doesn't make sense. I've never, So that then gives you an opportunity to, okay, how do we make it make sense for all? And we kind of land in a great place. Not that it wasn't a bad place, but it's like, explain it to me like I'm 5 or whatever. I mean, we're the 5-year-olds here. So please don't clip that and quote that. But anyway, just wanted to, yeah, exactly. Wanted to say I support the amendments and thanks for all the work. Yeah.
Thank you. President.
Yeah, I'll just thank you. I think this is really clear. You guys have done a great work. It's a complicated topic in a complicated time. And, the overwhelming amount, our faculty, 99.99% of our faculty and researchers, are overly zealous following every possible regulation and rule, which are constantly changing. But it is important for us to be able to figure out when people get off track. And I know your office is doing a really amazing work with that. And this policy will help. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Just a point of clarification, I think came to us in May as academic misconduct, and we're changing, I believe, that to research misconduct. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Okay, there being no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. The motion is approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we will consider the consent report. Provost Croson will summarize the items in today's report.
Thank you, Chair Johnson and members of the board. I'm pleased to present the consent report for your consideration. This report includes the usual academic program report, including new academic programs, programs that have requested changes, and plans that are to be discontinued. Additionally, the report asks for your consideration of conferral of tenure on 11 new outside faculty hires. This includes the university's newest dean, Dr. R. Kip Guy, who is the new dean of the College of Pharmacy. The consent report is presented for your consideration with my and the president's recommendation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Chair Johnson, this concludes my remarks.
Thank you. So before I invite a motion to approve this consent, you are welcome to ask questions, make comments, or ask for an item to be separated out from the report and voted on separately. Are there any questions, comments, or requests for separation? Regent Johnson.
Thank you, Chair Johnson. I just wanted to comment and commend got some fantastic folks here that are getting tenure. Just wanted to underline Dr. Kimberly Tallbear, who's joining the American Indian Studies Department, who is internationally famous professor. So I'm glad we're getting her on board. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other comments or? Okay. Is there a motion to approve on behalf of the board the consent report?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion is approved. That brings us to the information items. Provost Croson, anything to highlight?
Thank you, Chair Johnson. I'm pleased to remind you that our regular report of student, faculty, and staff accomplishments has been included in the docket for today's meetings, along with links you can follow to receive more information. Of note in this report, the University of Minnesota Medical School researchers and researchers from the Van Andel Institute in Grand Rapids, Michigan, received a 2-year, $5.8 million grant from the Aligning Science Across Parkinson's initiative in partnership with the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research. 6 Gopher Athletics programs showcased the strong student-athlete performance in the classroom by receiving a perfect 1,000 multi-year academic program rate from the NCAA. And finally, University of Minnesota researchers were issued 111 U.S. patents in 2024. This is an increase from 98 U.S. patents in 2023. Chair Johnson, this concludes my remarks.
Thank you very much. And before we adjourn, I would like to note that today is Executive Vice President Provost Croson's last Mission Fulfillment Committee meeting as our Senior Leader Liaison. The board will formally recognize Provost Croson at tomorrow's board meeting, but I wanted to express our deep appreciation for all that you have done to advance the work of this committee. You and your team have been great partners and have helped us to highlight the amazing work being done by our students, faculty, and staff to fulfill our mission. Thank you for your service to this committee, the university, and our state. Thank you. Thank you. Just like to add personally, it's been an honor and joy to work with you. All right. So, there being no additional business before the committee, we stand adjourned.